The conference room on the 14th floor of Quantum Dynamics was stuffy. Despite the air conditioning, packed with 20 executives reviewing third-quarter projections, Olivia Chen had been standing at the front, presenting marketing analytics for 40 minutes, when the numbers on her spreadsheet started to blur. She blinked hard, trying to refocus. Her hands were shaking slightly as she advanced to the next slide, and a cold sweat had broken out across her forehead despite the room's temperature. As you can see from the data, Olivia's voice sounded distant to her own ears. The faces staring back at her seemed to shift and distort. The conversion rates have increased by... The room tilted sideways. Olivia heard someone shout her name. Her boss, maybe. Or Marcus from finance. And then the floor rushed up to meet her. She was dimly aware of hitting something hard, of hands grabbing at her, of voices overlapping in alarm, then nothing. When consciousness returned, seconds or minutes later, she couldn't tell. Olivia was on the floor with someone's jacket under her head. CEO Julian Brennan was kneeling beside her, his hand on her wrist, checking her pulse, his usually composed expression tight with concern. "Don't try to sit up," Julian said firmly when Olivia attempted to move. "So you collapsed, completely unconscious for at least 30 seconds. Has this happened before?" "I'm fine," Olivia said automatically, though her voice was weak and unconvincing. "Just stood up too fast, probably. Low blood sugar." "You were already standing," Julian interrupted, his fingers still on her pulse. "And your heart rate is erratic. How long have you been feeling unwell?" "I'm not," Olivia started, but another wave of dizziness cut her off. "Someone call 911, Julian ordered, not taking his eyes off Olivia. "Now." "That's not necessary," Olivia protested weakly. "Really, I just need water and maybe to sit for a minute. You just lost consciousness in the middle of a presentation," Julian said, his tone brooking no argument. "That's not just anything. Paramedics are coming and you're going to let them evaluate you. That's not a request, Miss Chen. It's a direct order from your CEO." Olivia wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like a physical weight. The truth was, this wasn't the first time she'd felt like this. The dizziness had been getting worse for weeks, accompanied by crushing fatigue, unexplained bruising, and a general sense that something in her body wasn't working correctly. But admitting that meant doctors, tests, possibly diagnoses she wasn't ready to face, so she'd been pushing through, telling herself it was just stress or lack of sleep, or any of a dozen explanations that didn't require medical intervention. Now lying on the conference room floor with 20 executives staring at her, and Julian Brennan personally taking her pulse. That denial was no longer sustainable. The paramedics arrived within 10 minutes, checking her vitals and asking questions. Olivia answered automatically. No, she wasn't on any medications. No, she hadn't been drinking, yes. She'd been feeling tired lately, no. She didn't think she'd hit her head when she fell. "Blood pressure is low," one paramedic said to his partner, "and she's tachycardic. We should transport for evaluation." "I really don't think that's necessary," Olivia said, trying to sit up despite the paramedic's restraining hand. "I feel better already. I can just go home and rest." "You're going to the hospital," Julian said firmly. He'd stood back to give the paramedics room to work, but his expression made it clear this wasn't negotiable. "And I'm coming with you to make sure you actually get properly evaluated, instead of trying to sign yourself out the moment you arrive." "Mr. Brennan, you don't need to..." Olivia started. "Julian," he corrected absently, still focused on the paramedics. "And yes, I do. You collapsed at work, during work hours while performing work duties. That makes this a company liability issue, which means I'm involved until we know what caused it." It was a reasonable explanation, delivered in Julian's typical direct, no-nonsense manner, but something in his eyes suggested this was more than just corporate liability management. There was genuine concern there, worry that went beyond professional obligation. The ambulance ride to Seattle General was a blur of questions and monitoring equipment. Julian sat in the front seat. The paramedics had firmly refused to let him ride in back, but Olivia could see him through the partition, his jaw tight, occasionally glancing back as if to reassure himself she was still conscious. At the hospital, Olivia was immediately taken to an examination room and hooked up to what felt like a dozen different monitors. A young nurse named Kelly took her vitals again, asked more questions, and drew several vials of blood. "The doctor will be in shortly," Kelly said, adjusting the IV line she'd just placed in Olivia's arm. "Try to rest." After Kelly left, Julian appeared in the doorway. "May I come in?" "It's not like I can stop you," Olivia said, "but without real heat. You're the CEO, I work for you. If you want to hover over my hospital bed making sure I don't try to escape, that's your prerogative." "I'm not hovering," Julian said, pulling up the room's single chair. "I'm ensuring a valued employee receives appropriate medical care." "There's a difference, and is there?" Olivia asked, too exhausted to maintain professional distance. "Julian, you have a company to run. You don't need to babysit me through a hospital visit. I'm sure it's nothing serious, probably just dehydration or low blood sugar or something you've been ignoring for weeks," Julian interrupted quietly. "Olivia, I've been watching you, not in a creepy way," he added quickly when her eyes widened. "But as your CEO, I pay attention to my staff, and you've been declining for at least a month, coming in late, leaving early, looking exhausted despite sleeping at your desk during lunch. That's not dehydration." Olivia felt tears pricking her eyes, which was ridiculous. She never cried, especially not at work, especially not in front of her CEO. "I didn't think anyone noticed." "I noticed," Julian said simply. "I should have said something sooner, should have asked if you were okay, if you needed time off. If something was wrong, instead I just watched you run yourself into the ground until you literally collapsed. That's on me." "It's not your responsibility to monitor my health," Olivia protested. "Maybe not legally," Julian agreed, "but morally, when I see someone He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. "When I see a valued employee clearly struggling, I should do something about it, so I'm doing it now. Even if it's later than it should have been." Before Olivia could respond, the door opened and a doctor entered. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an air of competent authority. "Ms. Chen, I'm Dr. Patricia Walsh," she said, pulling up Olivia's chart on the room's computer. "I understand you collapsed at work today. Can you walk me through what you were doing when it happened?" Olivia explained the presentation. "The dizziness, the loss of consciousness." Dr. Walsh asked follow-up questions. Had she been feeling unwell before today? Had she noticed any other symptoms, any changes in her health recently with each question? Olivia found herself admitting things she'd been minimizing for weeks. The exhaustion that wasn't helped by sleep, the bruises that appeared without explanation, the occasional chest pain she'd attributed to stress, the weight loss despite eating normally. Dr. Walsh's expression grew progressively more serious. "To Miss Chen, I'm going to be direct with you. Your symptoms, combined with your blood work." She paused. "Your complete blood count is extremely abnormal. Your red blood cells are low. Your white blood cells are elevated in a concerning pattern, and your platelets are dangerously depleted. I need to run additional tests, but I'm concerned we're looking at a hematological disorder." "What does that mean?" Olivia asked. Though part of her already knew, she'd Googled her symptoms weeks ago, had seen the possibilities, had chosen to ignore them. "It means something is wrong with your blood cells," Dr. Walsh explained. "The specific nature requires more testing, bone marrow biopsy, additional labs, imaging, but Ms. Chen, this is serious. The pattern I'm seeing is consistent with several conditions, some of which require immediate treatment." "Like what conditions?" Julian asked. His voice carefully controlled. "Doctor." Walsh looked at him. "Are you family?" "He's my CEO," Olivia said. "He brought me here and—" She took a breath. "He can hear whatever you need to tell me. I don't have family in Seattle." Dr. Walsh nodded. "The most likely possibilities are severe anemia, possibly immune thrombocytopenia, or—" She paused. "Or a form of leukemia. I won't know until we complete the diagnostic workup, but given the severity of your symptoms and blood work, I'm admitting you tonight. We'll start testing first thing tomorrow morning." Leukemia. The word hung in the air like a bomb. "That's—" Olivia's voice failed. "That's cancer." "You're saying I might have cancer?" "I'm saying we need more information," Dr. Walsh said gently. "But yes, it's one possibility, Mrs. Chen. I know this is frightening, but early detection and treatment make a significant difference in outcomes. If this is what we're dealing with, catching it now is far better than waiting." After Dr. Walsh left to arrange admission, Olivia sat in stunned silence. Cancer, possible cancer, leukemia, which she knew enough about to understand was serious, potentially deadly, requiring aggressive treatment. "Olivia," Julian said quietly, "look at me." She did, and found his expression open and honest in a way she'd never seen. Julian Brennan was always controlled, always professional, always maintaining the perfect CEO demeanor, but right now he looked genuinely shaken. "Whatever this is, you're not dealing with it alone," Julian said. "I meant what I said earlier. You're not just an employee to me, you're—" He stopped, running a hand through his hair in an uncharacteristically flustered gesture. "You're important as a person, and I'm going to make sure you have every resource, every support, everything you need to get through this." "You barely know me," Olivia whispered. "We work together, that's it. You don't owe me anything beyond professional courtesy." "That's not true," Julian replied. "I know you stay late 3 nights a week helping junior staff with their projects. I know you brought homemade soup for the entire marketing team when they were all sick with flu. I know you've been quietly covering for Michael in accounting while he deals with his divorce, and you think no one noticed. I know," he paused, "I know you're the first person I look for when I walk into the office every morning, and the last person I check on before I leave. So don't tell me I barely know you, Olivia. I know enough." Olivia felt tears finally escaping, running down her cheeks unchecked. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I've been scared for weeks, but I didn't want to know, didn't want it to be real if I didn't get tested. If I didn't see a doctor, then it couldn't be anything serious. That's stupid, I know." "It's human," Julian interrupted gently. "Fear makes us do irrational things, but Olivia, you know now. You know. And knowing means you can fight it, whatever this is. Severe anemia or immune disorder or even worst-case scenario, you can face it head-on with proper treatment." "What if I can't?" Olivia asked quietly. "What if it's bad? What if treatment doesn't work? What if I—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Julian moved closer, taking her hand carefully, mindful of the IV. "Then you fight anyway and you let people help you, starting with me." "Why?" Olivia asked. "Why do you care this much?" Julian was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Because 3 years ago I watched my sister go through cancer treatment, stage 3 breast cancer. She survived, thankfully. But I saw how alone she felt, how isolated the diagnosis made her, how people pulled away because they didn't know what to say or how to help. I promised myself, if I ever saw someone else going through something similar, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't pull away. I'd show up." "So this is about your sister," Olivia said, trying to ignore the disappointment. "It started that way," Julian admitted. "But Olivia, my sister's experience taught me what matters, not business success or quarterly profits or any of the things I spend most of my time obsessing over. What matters is the people we care about, and somewhere along the way you became someone I care about a lot." Before Olivia could process that, Kelly returned to transport her to a room upstairs. Julian stepped back, letting the nurse work, but his expression made it clear he wasn't going anywhere. "Visiting hours end at 8, Kelly informed them as they moved through the hallways, "but immediate family can stay longer if needed." "I'm not family," Julian said. "He's not," Olivia confirmed. Kelly looked between them with a knowing expression. "Hospital policy is flexible for significant others. Just so you know." After Kelly settled Olivia into her room and left, Julian pulled up a chair. "You should go home," Olivia said, though she didn't mean it. The thought of being alone right now, waiting for test results that might confirm her worst fears, was terrifying. "I should," Julian agreed. "Julian. But I'm not going to. Not unless you explicitly tell me to leave. Do you want me to leave, Olivia?" "No," Olivia whispered. "I don't want to be alone." "Then I'm staying," Julian said simply, "for as long as you need me here." As Olivia drifted into exhausted sleep, she was dimly aware of Julian still sitting beside her bed, his hand wrapped around hers, keeping watch. Tomorrow would bring tests and possibly devastating news, but tonight she wasn't alone, and somehow that made all the difference. Olivia woke to the sound of nurses changing shifts outside her door and morning sunlight streaming through the hospital window. For a confused moment, she couldn't remember where she was or why. Then memory returned. The collapse, the ambulance, doctor, Walsh's careful words about leukemia. She turned her head and found Julian still in the chair beside her bed, asleep in what looked like an extremely uncomfortable position, his suit jacket draped over him like a blanket. He'd stayed all night. "You're awake," a nurse said quietly, entering with a blood pressure cuff. "How are you feeling?" Confused, Olivia admitted, and worried. When do I get test results? Dr. Walsh ordered a full workup for this morning. They'll start with imaging, then the bone marrow biopsy this afternoon. The nurse, her badge read James, checked Olivia's vitals efficiently. So your friend there refused to leave. We tried to kick him out at midnight, but he said he was staying until you woke up. That's dedication. He's not my friend, Olivia said automatically. He's my CEO. James raised an eyebrow. Your CEO slept in a hospital chair all night because he's... Olivia stopped, not sure how to finish. He's being supportive. Uh-huh, James said, clearly not buying it. Well, your supportive CEO looks like he could use some coffee and a chiropractor. Should I wake him? No, Olivia said quickly. Let him sleep. He probably hasn't gotten any rest. After James left, Olivia watched Julian sleep, even unconscious. There was something commanding about him. The strong jawline, the competent hands now relaxed in his lap, the slight frown that suggested he was dreaming about something serious. She'd been working at Quantum Dynamics for 2 years and had admired Julian from a professional distance. He was brilliant, demanding, fair, and completely intimidating, the kind of CEO everyone respected but few actually knew personally. But this, staying all night, holding her hand, offering support without hesitation, this was a side of him she'd never seen, vulnerable, caring, human in a way his corporate persona never revealed. Julian stirred, his eyes opening slowly when he saw Olivia watching him. He sat up quickly, wincing at what was clearly a stiff neck. "You're awake," he said, his voice rough from sleep. "How do you feel?" "Like I should be asking you that," Olivia replied. "Julian, you slept in a chair all night. You should have gone home." "I told you I was staying," Julian said simply, stretching carefully. "I meant it. What time do your tests start?" "The nurse said this morning, but no specific time." Olivia paused. "You really don't have to stay for this. I'm sure you have meetings, work emergencies." "All handled," Julian interrupted. "I sent an email to my assistant at 5 a.m., rearranging my schedule for the next 3 days. Told the executive team I was dealing with a personal emergency and would be unavailable except for critical issues." "A personal emergency," Olivia repeated. "Julian, this is my medical situation, not yours." "It feels personal to me," Julian said quietly. "Olivia, I know this is unconventional. I know I'm overstepping normal CEO-employee boundaries. If that makes you uncomfortable, I'll back off. But I need you to understand. I'm not here out of obligation or corporate liability concerns. I'm here because I want to be. Because the thought of you going through this alone is unacceptable to me." Before Olivia could respond, Dr. Walsh entered with a tablet and a serious expression. "Good morning, Miss Chen. I see you brought reinforcements," she said, nodding at Julian. "That's good. You'll want support for what I need to discuss." Olivia's stomach dropped. "You have results already, preliminary ones," Dr. Walsh said. Dr. Walsh, pulling up a chair. "Your imaging came back clear. No masses, no obvious organ involvement, which is good news. But your blood work is concerning. Your white blood cell count is extremely elevated, with an abnormal cell population, combined with your low red cells and platelets. The pattern is strongly suggestive of acute myeloid leukemia." The words hit like a physical blow. Olivia heard Julian's sharp intake of breath beside her. "How sure are you?" Olivia asked, her voice surprisingly steady. "I won't have definitive confirmation until after the bone marrow biopsy this afternoon," Dr. Walsh said. "But Miss Chen, based on what I'm seeing, I'd estimate 90% certainty. I've already consulted with our oncology team. Dr. Richard Chen, no relation, is one of the best leukemia specialists in the country. He'll take over your care once we have the official diagnosis." "If it's leukemia," Julian said, his hand finding Olivia's. "What's the treatment protocol?" "Aggressive chemotherapy. Likely starting within days of diagnosis," Dr. Walsh replied. "AML is serious, but it's also treatable with proper care. Remission rates are good, especially in younger patients. Mrs. Chen, you're 32, otherwise healthy. Those are factors in your favor." "And if treatment doesn't work," Olivia asked quietly. "We deal with that if it becomes relevant," Dr. Walsh said firmly. "But let's not borrow trouble, one step at a time first. The biopsy, then confirm diagnosis, then we make a treatment plan, okay?" After Dr. Walsh left, Olivia sat in silence, trying to process, Cancer, leukemia, chemotherapy. Words that happen to other people, not to her. "Olivia," Julian said softly. "Talk to me. What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking this is surreal," Olivia said. "Yesterday I was giving a presentation. Today I might have cancer. How does that happen? How does your life just change that fast?" "Sometimes it does," Julian said. "My sister's diagnosis was similar. One day she found a lump. 2 weeks later she was starting chemo. Life doesn't give you time to prepare." "How did your sister handle it?" Olivia asked. "The diagnosis, the treatment, all of it." "Badly at first," Julian admitted. "She was angry, scared, in denial. But then she decided to fight. Not because she was brave, she told me later she was terrified every single day, but because the alternative was giving up, and that wasn't acceptable to her." "I don't know if I'm that strong," Olivia whispered. "You are," Julian said with certainty. "Olivia, you've been dealing with these symptoms for weeks, while maintaining a full workload. Supporting your team, showing up every day, that takes incredible strength. You just didn't know you were doing it." Olivia's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Haven't heard from you in a few days. Everything okay?" "I need to tell my family," Olivia said, staring at the message. "But I don't know how to say it." "How do you tell your parents you might have cancer?" "You tell them the truth," Julian said, "and you let them support you, Olivia. You said you don't have family in Seattle, but where are they?" "San Francisco," Olivia replied. "My parents and younger brother, we're close, but I've been avoiding their calls for the past week because I didn't want to lie about being okay when I wasn't. And now," her voice cracked, "now I have to tell them the truth. Do you want me to step out while you call?" Julian asked. "No," Olivia said quickly. "Stay, please." She called her mother's number, and Amanda Chen answered on the second ring. "Olivia, I was just thinking about you. How are you?" "Sweetheart." "Mum," Olivia said, and her voice broke on the word. "I'm in the hospital. I collapsed at work yesterday and they're running tests and—" She took a shaky breath. "They think I might have leukemia." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Then what?" Olivia explained everything. The symptoms she'd been ignoring. The collapse, the blood work, Dr. Walsh's preliminary diagnosis. Her mother listened without interrupting, but Olivia could hear her crying softly. "We're coming," Amanda said immediately. "Your father and I will drive up today. We'll be there by tonight." "Mom, you don't have to," Olivia started. "Olivia." "We're coming," Amanda repeated firmly. "Olivia, you're our daughter. You're sick. We're coming. That's not negotiable." After hanging up, Olivia wiped at her eyes. "They're driving up from San Francisco. 6-hour drive. My mother sounded—" She couldn't finish. "Scared," Julian supplied gently. "Because she loves you, and this is terrifying, but Olivia, having them here will help. You shouldn't go through this alone." "I'm not alone," Olivia said, looking at him. "You're here." "I am," Julian agreed, "and I'll stay as long as you want me here. But Olivia, I need to ask, are you comfortable with me being around when your parents arrive? I don't want to overstep or make an already stressful situation more complicated." "I want you here," Olivia said firmly. "Julian, you stayed all night. You rearranged your entire schedule. You're holding my hand while I fall apart. You're not overstepping. She paused, trying to articulate what he was. "You're exactly what I need right now." Something shifted in Julian's expression. Relief, maybe, or hope. "Okay, then I'm not going anywhere." The bone marrow biopsy that afternoon was as unpleasant as Dr. Walsh had warned. Olivia lay on her side while Dr. Walsh inserted a large needle into her hip bone. Extracting marrow samples for analysis, Julian held her hand through the entire procedure, not flinching when she squeezed hard enough to hurt during the worst parts. "All done," Dr. Walsh finally said. "Results should be back tomorrow morning. Try to rest tonight, Mrs. Chen. I know that's easier said than done. But your body needs it." Olivia's parents arrived at 7 p.m., her mother rushing into the room with tears streaming down her face, her father close behind, looking shaken. They embraced Olivia carefully, mindful of her IV lines, asking questions and offering reassurances in the way only parents could. "Who's this?" Amanda asked, noticing Julian standing respectfully back from the family reunion. "This is Julian Brennan," Olivia said. "My CEO. He's been here since I was admitted yesterday." Since yesterday, Olivia's father, Robert, looked at Julian with new assessment. That's quite dedicated. Olivia is a valued member of our team, Julian said smoothly, offering his hand. I wanted to ensure she had support. All night in a hospital chair support, Amanda asked, her tone suggesting she wasn't buying the professional explanation. Mom, Olivia said, embarrassed, Julian has been incredibly helpful. Please don't interrogate him. I'm not interrogating, Amanda said innocently. I'm just observing that CEOs don't typically spend 24 hours at an employee's hospital bedside unless there's more to the relationship than quarterly reports. Mrs. Chen, Julian started. Amanda, she corrected. And I'm not criticizing. I'm grateful. Olivia doesn't let people help her easily. The fact that she let you stay says something. Julian glanced at Olivia, something warm in his expression. She's been remarkably tolerant of my hovering. It's not hovering if I want you here, Olivia said quietly. Her parents exchanged a knowing look, but had the grace not to comment further. Instead, they settled into the visitor chairs, asking Dr. Walsh questions when she came by, discussing logistics for the next few days. We'll get a hotel nearby, Robert said. Be here every day until we know what we're dealing with. You can stay at my place, Julian offered. I have a guest room that's not being used. It's 10 minutes from the hospital. We couldn't impose... Amanda started. It's not an imposition, Julian said, and it'll save you hotel costs while you're here. Please let me help. Olivia watched the exchange with something approaching wonder. Julian was smoothly integrating himself into her family crisis, offering support that went far beyond professional obligation, and her parents, who were usually suspicious of strangers, were accepting his help with surprising ease, maybe because they could see what Olivia was only beginning to understand. Julian wasn't here as her CEO. He was here as someone who cared about her, deeply and personally, in ways that had nothing to do with quarterly profits or employee retention. That night, after her parents left to settle into Julian's guest room, Olivia and Julian were alone again in the hospital room. Thank you, Olivia said, for staying, for helping my parents, for everything. You don't need to thank me, Julian replied. Olivia, I meant what I said yesterday. You're important to me. More important than is probably appropriate given our professional relationship, but I'm past caring about appropriate. What are you saying? Olivia asked. Though part of her already knew, Julian moved closer, taking her hand. I'm saying that I've been half in love with you for the past year, that I look for you every morning when I arrive at work and find excuses to walk past your office just to see if you're okay, that the marketing meetings I insist on attending personally aren't about the marketing. They're about getting to see you present, watching you think, listening to you explain complex strategies in ways that make everything clear. Julian, Olivia's voice broke. I know the timing is terrible, Julian continued. I know you're dealing with a potential cancer diagnosis and don't need romantic complications on top of medical ones, but I also know that if I don't say this now, I might never get another chance. So I'm saying it, Olivia. I love you. I have for a long time. And whatever happens with your diagnosis, whatever treatment you need, whatever you're facing, I want to face it with you if you'll let me. Olivia felt tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to do this. Let someone in. Depend on someone. Trust that they won't leave when things get hard. Then let me show you, Julian said gently. Let me prove I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to say you love me back. You don't have to make any decisions or commitments. Just let me be here. That's all I'm asking. Okay, Olivia whispered. Okay. Julian leaned forward, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Get some rest. Tomorrow we get results. And then we make a plan together. As Olivia drifted to sleep, Julian's hand warm in hers, she thought about how 24 hours ago she'd been pretending everything was fine, hiding her symptoms, afraid to know the truth. Now the truth was coming whether she was ready or not, but she wouldn't face it alone. And somehow that made even the possibility of cancer feel survivable. Dr. Walsh arrived at 8 a.m. the next morning with Dr. Richard Chen, the oncologist she'd mentioned. Both wore expressions that told Olivia everything she needed to know before they said a word. It's leukemia, Olivia said, not a question. I'm afraid so, Dr. Walsh confirmed. The bone marrow biopsy confirmed acute myeloid leukemia, subtype M2, Dr. Chen will explain what that means and your treatment options. Dr. Chen pulled up a chair, opening a tablet with imaging and lab results. He was in his 50s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a calm demeanor that somehow made the devastating news feel manageable. "Piers Chen, may I call you Olivia?" She nodded, her hand finding Julian's automatically. Her parent stood on her other side, her mother's hand on her shoulder. "Olivia, AML is serious but treatable," Dr. Chen began. "The M2 subtype means we've identified specific genetic markers that actually give us better treatment targets. You're young, otherwise healthy, and we caught this relatively early. Those are all factors in your favor." "What's the treatment?" Robert asked, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "Induction chemotherapy, starting as soon as possible, ideally within the next few days," Dr. Chen replied. "That's an intensive, hospital-based treatment lasting about a month. The goal is to kill the leukemia cells and achieve remission. Then we follow with consolidation therapy to prevent relapse." "Side effects?" Amanda asked quietly. "Significant," Dr. Chen said honestly. "Nausea, fatigue, hair loss, increased infection risk due to compromised immune system. You'll need to stay in the hospital during induction, in isolation to prevent infection. It's going to be physically and emotionally difficult." "And if it works," Olivia asked, "what are my chances?" "With your subtype and age, we're looking at about a 70% chance of achieving complete remission after induction." Dr. Chen said, "Long-term survival rates are approximately 50 to 60% with standard treatment. If you achieve remission and remain disease-free for 5 years, the likelihood of recurrence drops significantly. 50 to 60%, coin flip odds on surviving." Olivia felt Julian's hand tighten around hers. "When do we start?" Olivia asked, proud that her voice didn't shake. "We'd like to admit you to the oncology floor today," Dr. Chen said. "Start pre-chemo protocols, insert a central line for medication administration, begin the first round of treatment tomorrow morning. The sooner we start, the better your outcomes after the doctors left to arrange the transfer." Olivia's family sat in stunned silence. "I need to call work," Olivia said finally. "Tell them I won't be in for—" She stopped. A month in the hospital, weeks of recovery after, months of treatment, for a while. "I'll handle that," Julian said immediately. "You're going on medical leave, effective immediately. Full pay, benefits maintained, no questions asked. Your job will be waiting when you're ready to come back." "Julian, I can't expect—" Olivia started. "You're not expecting," Julian interrupted gently. "I'm offering, Olivia. You're going to be fighting for your life. The last thing you need to worry about is employment or insurance or any of that. Consider it handled." "He's right," Amanda said, her hand still on Olivia's shoulder. "Baby, you need to focus on getting better. Everything else can wait." The transfer to the oncology floor happened quickly. Olivia's new room was larger, with better views and, ominously, air filtration systems to maintain the sterile environment she'd need during treatment. "I hate this already," Olivia said as a nurse explained all the restrictions. "Limited visitors, no fresh flowers, strict hygiene protocols. I'm going to be trapped in here for a month." "You're going to be alive," Julian corrected. "That's what matters." That afternoon, Olivia underwent surgery to have a central line placed in her chest, a port for administering chemotherapy without constantly accessing her veins. She woke groggy and sore, the catheter visible above her hospital gown, a physical reminder of what she was facing. Julian was there when she woke, as he'd been for every procedure, every difficult moment. Her parents had gone to his house to shower and rest, at his insistence, leaving them alone. "You don't have to keep staying," Olivia said. "Julian, I'm just going to be here for weeks, getting treatment, probably feeling terrible. You've already done so much." "I'm not going anywhere," Julian said firmly. "Olivia, we've had this conversation multiple times now. I'm here, I'm staying. Please stop trying to push me away. I'm not—" Olivia stopped, recognizing the truth. "Okay, I am, but Julian, this is going to be awful. Chemo makes people sick, weak, lose their hair. I'm going to look terrible, feel terrible, probably be miserable to be around." "And I'll still be here," Julian interrupted. "Olivia, do you think I care about your hair? About whether you're pleasant company every single moment? I care about you surviving. Everything else is it's just details." Your company is about to be without a CEO for weeks, Olivia pointed out. You can't just abandon Quantum Dynamics to babysit me through cancer treatment. I'm not abandoning the company, Julian said. I'm delegating, which is what good CEOs do. My executive team is more than capable of handling day-to-day operations. I'll check in remotely for critical issues. But Olivia, his voice softened. You matter more than quarterly earnings. You matter more than board meetings or product launches or any of it. Please believe that. I'm trying, Olivia whispered. It's just hard to understand why you'd sacrifice so much for someone you barely know. I do know you, Julian said. Maybe not your favorite color or your childhood pets or every detail of your history, but I know what matters. I know you're kind and brilliant and brave even when you're terrified. I know you care about people, that you lead with compassion, that you make everyone around you want to be better, and I know... He paused, vulnerable. I know I'm in love with you, Olivia. Completely, inconveniently, irrevocably in love. So no, I'm not going anywhere. Get used to it. Olivia felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I love you too, she said, the admission feeling both terrifying and liberating. I've been trying not to, telling myself it's inappropriate or the timing is wrong or I'm too much of a mess right now, but I do. I love you, Julian. Julian's smile was brilliant. He leaned forward carefully, mindful of her port and IV lines, and kissed her gentle, sweet, full of promise and hope. Finally, he murmured against her lips, I've wanted to do that for approximately a year. Why didn't you? Olivia asked. Because I was your CEO, and you were my employee, and I was trying to be professional, Julian said. But then you collapsed in a conference room and I realized professionalism is overrated. Life's too short to waste time on appropriate distance when you're in love with someone. The first round of chemotherapy started the next morning. Dr. Chen had warned Olivia. It would be rough, but nothing prepared her for the reality. Within hours of the infusion starting, nausea hit like a wave. Then exhaustion so profound she could barely lift her head. Then the weakness, the mouth sores, the general sense that her body was at war with itself. Julian stayed through all of it, held her hair when she got sick, brought ice chips when her mouth hurt too much to drink water, read to her when she was too tired to focus on a screen, and simply sat beside her bed when she was too exhausted for conversation. Her parents visited daily, bringing updates from the outside world, home-cooked meals that Olivia could rarely eat, and unwavering support. They'd accepted Julian's presence without question, recognizing that he wasn't going anywhere regardless of what they thought. Your young man is devoted, Amanda said one afternoon when Julian had stepped out to take a call. I've never seen anyone so committed to someone else's well-being. He's not my... Olivia stopped. Okay, he is my young man. I don't know how that happened exactly. One day he was my CEO, the next he was this. Sometimes the best relationships start in crisis, Amanda said. I see who people really are when things are hard. And sweetheart, that man is showing you exactly who he is. Someone who stays. 3 weeks into treatment, Olivia woke one morning to find clumps of hair on her pillow. She'd known it was coming. Hair loss was inevitable with the chemo protocol, but seeing the physical evidence was still devastating. It's starting, she told Julian, her voice breaking. My hair. Julian looked at the pillow, then at Olivia's distressed expression. Do you want to shave it? Get ahead of it instead of watching it fall out gradually? Olivia stopped, considering. Maybe, but I don't know if I can do that. Then I'll do it, Julian said. If you want, we can do it together. An hour later, Olivia sat in her hospital bathroom while Julian carefully shaved her head, his movements gentle and sure. When he was done, Olivia looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Pale, thin from weeks of nausea, completely bald. I look like... She couldn't finish. You look beautiful, Julian said firmly. Olivia, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen, hair or no hair, sick or healthy. That doesn't change. You're biased, Olivia said, but she was crying. Completely, Julian agreed, kissing the top of her now smooth head. And I'm okay with that. Week 4 of induction therapy brought both good news and challenges. Dr. Chen ordered another bone marrow biopsy to check treatment effectiveness. I hate this test, Olivia said as they prepared her for the procedure. It hurts, and I'm already sore everywhere, and... I know, Julian said, taking her hand, but it's necessary, and I'll be right here. The results came back 2 days later. Dr. Chen entered with a smile that made Olivia's heart leap with hope. "You're in remission," he announced. "Complete remission. No detectable leukemia cells in your marrow, Olivia. This is exactly what we hoped for." Olivia burst into tears, overwhelmed with relief. Her parents hugged her carefully. Crying themselves, Julian sat quietly beside her, his hand in hers, his expression peaceful. "What happens now?" Robert asked. "Consolidation therapy." Dr. Chen said, "Less intensive than induction, but still necessary to prevent relapse. We'll start in a few weeks, give Olivia time to recover her strength. But this," he gestured to the test results, "this is the goal, this is why we do the hard treatment, because it works." Olivia was discharged 3 days later, weak and exhausted but cancer-free. The plan was 6 weeks of recovery at home before starting consolidation therapy. "Where is home?" Amanda asked as they prepared to leave the hospital. "Your apartment or my place," Julian said before Olivia could answer. "If that's okay with you," he added quickly, looking at Olivia. "I have space. It's close to the hospital for appointments and I want to take care of you, if you'll let me." "Your place," Olivia agreed, too exhausted to argue and not wanting to anyway. The thought of being alone in her apartment while recovering from cancer treatment was depressing. The thought of being with Julian, watching terrible TV and slowly regaining her strength while he hovered protectively, sounded perfect. 6 months later, Olivia stood in front of the bathroom mirror in Julian's house. Their house now, really. Examining her reflection, her hair had grown back in soft curls, shorter than before but healthy. She'd regained the weight she'd lost during treatment. The port in her chest had been removed after her final round of consolidation therapy. Recent scans showed no evidence of disease. She was officially and completely in remission. "You're doing it again," Julian said, appearing behind her in the mirror, staring at yourself like you can't believe you're okay. "Because I can't," Olivia admitted. 6 months ago I was dying. Now I'm—" She gestured to her reflection. "I'm okay. How is that possible?" "Modern medicine," Julian said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Excellent doctors, aggressive treatment and stubbornness. You refuse to give up." "You refuse to let me give up," Olivia corrected. "Julian, I couldn't have done this without you. The treatment, the recovery, all of it. You were there for everything." "Where else would I be?" Julian asked, kissing her temple. "Olivia, you're it for me, the person I want beside me through everything. Good days and terrible days and everything in between." "That sounds like—" Olivia stopped, turning in his arms. "That sounds like forever." "It is," Julian said simply. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I was planning to do this somewhere romantic. Dinner maybe, or that overlook you love, but standing here in our bathroom, with you healthy and strong and cancer-free, this feels like the right moment." He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant diamond ring. "Olivia Chen, will you marry me? Will you let me be the person who stays beside you through everything? For the rest of our lives." Olivia felt tears streaming down her face. Happy tears, not the terrified tears of 6 months ago. "Yes," she said. "Yes, absolutely yes." Julian slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that felt like celebration and promise, and the beginning of everything they'd fought so hard to reach. "I love you," Olivia whispered against his lips. "I love you too," Julian replied. "Thank you for not dying, for fighting, for letting me love you." "Thank you for staying," Olivia said, "for not running when things got hard, for being exactly who I needed when I needed it most." Later, curled up on the couch together, Olivia thought about the collapse that had started everything. Falling unconscious in a conference room had seemed like a disaster, career-ending, humiliating, terrifying, but it had led to diagnosis, treatment, remission, to Julian revealing feelings he'd hidden for a year, to love built in hospital rooms, and through chemotherapy and during the hardest months of her life. "What are you thinking?" Julian asked, playing with her left hand, the engagement ring catching the light. "That sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes," Olivia said. "If I hadn't collapsed, I wouldn't have been diagnosed, wouldn't have gotten treatment, wouldn't have—" She paused. "Wouldn't have this, us." "Silver lining," Julian agreed, "though I could have done without the part where you almost died." "Same," Olivia said, laughing. "But Julian, I'm glad it was you. Glad you were the one who found me, who stayed with me, who refused to let me face it alone. I'm glad—" Her voice caught. I'm glad my CEO turned out to be the love of my life. Best hiring decision I ever made, Julian said, pulling her closer. Bringing you to Quantum Dynamics, meeting you, falling in love with you. You didn't hire me, Olivia pointed out. HR did. Then best decision HR ever made, Julian corrected. Either way, you're here, you're healthy, you're wearing my ring, and I get to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that you're loved, supported, and worth fighting for. Deal, Olivia whispered, kissing him again, outside. Seattle stretched before them, full of possibility, full of future. Full of all the tomorrows they'd almost lost but had fought so hard to keep. Cancer had tried to take her life. Instead, it had given her Julian, given her perspective, given her the certainty that she was strong enough to survive anything. And with Julian beside her, she knew she'd never have to survive alone again.